Hi, I'm John Sarakis with the Digital Mastermind. You're listening to The Climb. This is where agency owners and leaders tune in to get growth tips and strategies for growing their businesses. Everybody, thank you for joining us for episode 4 of The Climb. I'm here with my partner in climb once again, David McGraw. And in today's show, we're going to talk about building and scaling an agency. And first off, Dave, what are your thoughts when I say building and scaling an agency?
Yeah, you got to think about how do you put the systems in place to take on more work without hiring more people. I mean, scaling to me is all about maximizing productivity, and without that, then you're just gonna get overwhelmed with work.
Yeah, overwhelming is what comes to mind. Not an easy task is the other thought that I have there, because it's nothing simple. And the gentleman we're going to be speaking with today has brought his agency from 0 to 250, which is more than impressive.
Very,
and I guess to that other point, a lot of agencies, whether they think they want to grow or not, I think they need to focus on growing, because if you're not growing, you're dying. And you'll see these 5 and 7 person shops that, I think they're, perfectly happy where they are, but they're gonna have to continually raise their prices. And that's something I want to get in today is, what does it take to actually go, from either a 5 or 7 or, 1 to get up to, 100 plus. It's a big deal.
Well, I think that really differentiates the lifestyle company between or from, actual agencies looking to grow into a major corporation. Because I mean, the 5 to 6 person agency is great for a lot of people, and a lot of people thrive in those scenarios, but it's a big step going from that to 20.
And then in a lifestyle company though, isn't that just like a job for the most part? That's your job. You own a company that's just also your job.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, you get to maybe call the shots a little more than a job, but
you're the number one employee, just head supervisor, right?
Exactly.
All right, so today we're going to speak with a guy that's not only built and scaled an agency, but he's also sold it, and he did that without any financial assistance. So today I'd like to go ahead and welcome Gabe Shaoolian. Gabe, did I say your name right?
Close enough. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us, Gabe.
Sure.
All right, so Gabe is with Digital Silk, and what I'd like to do is, first and foremost, I'd like to get into your business profile, and feel free to stop me if anything in here isn't accurate. From Queens, New York, went to NYU on a scholarship. You started as a graphic designer, founder of Blue Fountain Media, which you built from a one-man operation into a 250-person agency and sold it in 2016. You're now living in Miami, Florida with your family, and you've started your other agency, Digital Silk, within the last few months, correct?
That's about right. I grew up in Queens originally, but then went to Long Island for high school.
Ah, okay. All right. And any reason for that?
That was a parent's call. We've got to ask them.
Okay. All right. Good parenting. So the first question I have to ask is, why did you sell your agency only to start a new one just 4 years later?
That's really a good question. To be frank with you, I did not think I would start another agency. After selling it, I just took some time off. I cooled off, and running an agency is stressful, especially if you want to grow one. It is one of the hardest businesses to run, where your clients, you got to make sure they're happy. You got to make sure your people are happy. So taking that time off after I sold it, I think helped me just clear my head, calm down a little bit. And I realized, I think I'm pretty good at this. It's what I know. So I said, and I think I know how to do it better this time around. So I'm giving it one more go around.
Why'd you sell it though?
I sold it because the company that purchased it, really, I believe they had good intentions to grow it and take it to the next level. Where they could open up very big doors to companies that they had relationship with. And I thought that it would be the best thing for the people working at BFM. When I started Blue Fountain Media, my plan was not, hey, I'm going to build a company, have hundreds of employees, and then I'm going to sell it. That wasn't my plan. There was no plan. But the company did grow. I was paying some of the top salaries in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
I had team members in New York, and anybody with an agency in New York knows that's a hotbed for talent.
Mm-hmm.
And to keep your talent, you got to pay them well. You got to treat them well. Otherwise, they'll get a job in a split second. So it was very stressful to both appease the team members, okay, especially the stars that I had, at the same time compete with other agencies. And what I realized is for us to evolve, we had to go and become agency of record for very much larger companies. So I sold it. Was it the right thing to do? I'm not sure. Part of me says yes, because I think that now I could start fresh and do it the way I wanted. Now, after learning, I could do it from start, from scratch, the way I wanted to go.
And then what does that feel like? That you've built something, right? And now it's almost like the Rocky story, right? Like you're now going back in the ring. It's been like 4 years. Are you excited? Are you like?
I'm excited. Very much overwhelmed. You know how much work it is to start a company.
Yeah.
Luckily, I have some really good people in the industry that I've been friends with, and I've had some clients that I was able to bring on board relatively quickly. But I forgot how much work it is to set up the systems, to start doing everything yourself. It's the endless nights, and so but at least this time I'm expecting it. I know what I'm in for.
So to your point that you mentioned right before this, the constantly chasing the employee versus the client, like one thing that I am really into is like the systems of how to like motivate people and how to make sure that they're incentivized and how customers are taken care of. Like, don't you feel like you're just constantly chasing, you got to push the rate for the customers so you can pay your employees more. And then, it's just this constant game that you have to chase as you grow an agency?
It's very true that people, especially good talent, doesn't even have to be good talent. People in the US, they want continual raises and they want continual changes of their title. I had a designer after 6 months, you want to be an art director. In the real world, 6 months experience is nothing. You have an SEO associate, the person wants to be SEO director in a year. Like, I found that, that was a real challenge. And for that reason, agencies alone and many companies have a high turnover because people are very ambitious and they want this instant gratification of, in just a few days from now, I'm going to get the next jump.
Of course.
It's not the world that I grew up in. I mean, I started an agency back in the .com doom era. So I believe that in order to incentivize people, you just got to win bigger clients. People want to see that. And you have to win bigger accounts. And they need to be able to do what the work of that title has. Like, you can't just give someone a bigger title without giving them more responsibility.
Right.
They got to bring that back to the company. So what I'm doing in the company now is that when I hire, I let them know that it's our performance that's going to decide how we do. It is not, hey, there's this magical person in the company that's going to bring us these big clients and pay. It's really, we all contribute to it. We're all rowing the same boat. Okay, there's no one person with a magical engine in the back of the boat.
Right.
So I'm hiring people that understand that and that are long-term players. But I think most agencies know the pain of trying to hold on to talent. And you could try different things. I'll tell you one thing. I don't believe in buying a foosball table.
How about beanbag chairs?
I don't believe in a ping pong. I don't, outside. Here's the thing. This is a serious profession. Like, imagine you went to go hire a lawyer. Do you want to see a ping pong table in the middle of their room? I mean, we're asking people for thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. We're asking them to put their projects in our hands. We're telling them that their jobs, they've hired us. I want to know when I hire someone that they're serious about it, not to have a bunch of kids playing games. I want to know that, and when I started as a designer, when I was designing, I loved designing. That was my passion. And I went to create an agency afterwards, and I really liked the idea of sales. But that's what drives me. I know people want to cool off and play ping pong, but I don't know. To me, that's not what I envision a professional agency doing.
That's not your culture.
People will disagree with that, and that's totally okay. They could have it at their place. My thing is, I'm driven. You know what makes me happy? When I see a great design. Yeah. It makes me happy. When I see that we kick butt on a campaign, that makes me happy. When I see a campaign is not getting results, that gets me thinking day in, day night. So that's how I want the team members to be.
Did you ever try the ping pong table or any of those things like that? Did you kind of dip your toe in it and you're like, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, previously I tried everything. I mean, we had team sports and we had all sorts of building activities, but those did not attract. At the end of the day, that's not what determined if someone stayed with us. Having a ping pong table or doing company outings is not why someone stays in a company. Believe it or not, they want to feel satisfied by the work they're doing, and they want to feel like they're getting compensated fairly for it. So I don't care if your company has a built-in movie theater and a swimming pool and all that stuff is great. But if the person doesn't have the satisfaction of feeling good about their work, that no matter how many toys you'll throw at them, that's what's going to matter to them.
Meaningful work.
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
I think most professionals can understand this, Mm-hmm. If you come out of college, you're like, what's going to determine me taking a job is going to be a pool or, I don't know. The one thing I do allow people is I don't babysit them. They work their own hours. I encourage them to go to the gym during the day. That's one thing where I do give flexibility. But putting games in the middle of the room, I'm very much against.
Yeah. If you caught them driving go-karts in the middle of the day, you would fire them on the spot, wouldn't you, Gabe?
I don't care what you do as long as you can do some great work. I'm just not going to supply the go-kart. That's all.
Gotcha. I love that, man. All right. So I want to get into the next question. You've worked with brands like Microsoft, IBM, Procter & Gamble, and the NFL.
Yeah.
These are some marquee names and not easy to get. How did you get these accounts?
Well, some of them found us. They found us through Google, actually. Some of them you find through networking. I used to think that you need to be a big name agency to get big brands. That is not the case. Believe it or not, I think if you have a smaller agency, that's an advantage that you have because you could be nimble, you could be agile, you could say I have expertise in this one thing. So if you want to get Microsoft as a client, you can do it. Nothing's holding you back from approaching somebody in Microsoft. No one's tied up your hands, scotch tape your mouth. That's the guy. Nothing's holding you back. People think there's this invisible force shield that unless I'm a super agency, I can't get in with them. Mm-hmm. A lot of these big companies, by a big company, I mean companies with revenues higher than $2 billion a year. In order to work with them and you want to do big work with them, they require you to become a certified vendor. Mm-hmm. But if the budget's less than $25 or in some case $50,000, they don't need that. Mm. So a department could make a decision. So if you approach them with a $5K, $15K, get your foot in the door, it could work. But you need to show them value. One of the biggest mistakes I find agencies don't do when pitching a client is they don't show them any value in pitching them. There's no ideas in there. There's nothing in there that's not on their website. It's more like nothing of a differentiation factor, nothing that tells the client, we understand what you need. Here's an idea to how to do it.
So I think a lot of agencies are too close vested, or too close to the chest where they're trying to hold things back. Because they want to sell their ideas. You know what I mean?
That might be the case, or they just don't invest the time in the idea. So they don't invest the time to create an idea. Look, if you want to get a Microsoft, you can't say, hi, we do websites. How many of those emails do we all get? We do websites. You can't. Right. That doesn't, first of all, there's two problems with that. The first problem is that you make a website and so does everybody else. The second problem, and that doesn't differentiate you, so that's the first problem. Second problem is, I don't care. I don't care you make a website. So that's what they don't understand. Do you show me that you, and look, let's turn the tables around. When I had to find a office space, I was going out of my space constantly. I had a lot of brokers pounding my inbox and telling me, I'll help you find office space. Well, the last guy said it, and the guy before you said, what differentiates you? One guy sent me an email and said, I just helped one of your competitors, and he gave me the competitor's name, find an office space. Here were some of the challenges, but we overcame. I have some ideas for you and how you could save money. Like, he showed me that I know what you're looking for. I have experience in your space, and I'm going to give you some extra value. Not too many agencies put that much work up front. If you want to get a client, you can do it, but you have to give them an idea. You have to show them that you understand what they're looking for and give them ideas on how to achieve it. Not just say, I could do it. They know you could do it.
So give me an example with Microsoft or IBM, Procter & Gamble, NFL.
Procter & Gamble was looking to build an intranet for one of their departments, one of their R&D departments. And they found us online. And the guy came over, and we were, at that time, we were very small. Blue Fountain Media was actually quite a small company, only 20, 30 people. And he's like, we're looking to build this intranet. And the first question is, why? For who? He said, for the team. We said, well, what do you hope to get out of it? And he said, well, we want to see if this works and that works. So we said, why don't we just plan out a simple phase one where we could put something out in 2 months, try it out, get some feedback, and then improve it. So they flew us out to Ohio, and we went in, and they had another agency there. And the other agency they had there was one of their agency of records, and they did what I call fluff, a lot of fluff talk. They get up and they talk about mood boards and this and that, and it's all great, but I'm like, I don't understand what you guys are talking. So when it was our turn, we went up and we actually drew a wireframe of what we think the internet should look like. We put the links at the top and the side. We drew where everything's going to go, and they said, yeah, that's what we need. And they started talking and said, well, what if we move this over there, move that over there? And before you knew it, we had a wireframe they liked, and that was to them much more productive than us getting up there and talking about theoretical stuff.
A vision.
Yeah. Show them something that they could see and envision.
Remove all the esoteric BS.
Right. And that's what got us in.
So they came to you. How would you approach today a bigger brand, right?
So companies we approach on our own big brands, really, number one way most agencies do it is a case study. Okay. Look what we did for company X. I mean, that's how I got some of the bigger food companies out there. Look what we did for this company, we could do the same for you. In other words, if you worked with one school or one university, or you work with one anything, approach somebody else and say, we just work with this is the results we got them. I want to hear what you're working on. I got to tell you, one of the biggest mistakes I find agencies doing, and I made this mistake myself many times, is you get an account and you don't do your best on it. You don't give it your all. Big mistake. Hard to do when you're running an agency. You want to make sure your clients have a great experience, but if every client you get is a referral. Every client you get is a referral. You also, agencies have a good. They know how to. Agencies are very good at telling their clients what to do. Like every marketing agency tells their clients, the first rule to marketing is know who you're marketing to, right? Who's your audience? But how many agencies could tell you who's their audience? For example, if you have to decide which kind of companies you're going to go after and stay true to that, that means we had to decide at Blue Fountain Media that we were going to cut out some of the smaller companies, and we did that. We dropped 20% of our clients.
Wow.
The leads that were coming in, or we were getting so many leads, let's say 20 were viable a month. When we increased our rates, 8 became viable a month. But made a decision to cut down, like you say, we need to know who is our client, who do we want to work with. And we will only work with people with X minimum budget. If they don't have that budget, they're not for us. End of story.
And you would qualify them at the beginning, and if you're not, would you give them to somebody else, or would you just?
Sure, we had, you have agencies that you have a relationship with, and you give it to that agency if they want it. But here's the thing: it's important to stay focused.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to work with Procter and Gamble, you can't be doing marketing for $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you can't be doing the same nonsense marketing that the other so-called agencies doing down the block. You need to do something really different. You could be working in a startup, you could work with a small business, just do something wow. And take that wow and take it to the big name, because they want to see that. They want people with ideas. They don't want to know that you could do social media marketing. So does their niece. She does it too, and she's 12 years old. They want to know, what is it that you could do that's going to sell my product off the shelf? What have you done? So case study is very important. So every agency right now has a few clients with tremendous potential. Take that, market that case study, send the press release out on it. Look at the big agencies. Look at RGA. That's what they do. Right now, one of their bigger clients is Nike. Look how many videos they've done with Nike where they talk about what they achieved with Nike.
Just continual storytelling on their own behalf.
That's right. So now they team, and you could do that too. So you might have some small business, but take the same approach. Do a case study with them.
So is it, and granted, let's say there's a case study, is it you beating on somebody's door, or do you have someone on your staff now, or even in the past, that is doing that, for you?
It depends on the organization. In some organizations, you have the CEO who loves doing marketing stuff.
Yep.
In some organizations, you have a CMO and they're in charge of that.
Mm-hmm.
You could have digital strategists, or you could have account directors, whoever it is. But if you look at what the big agencies are doing, where they're doing videos of introducing their client, talking about the challenge they overcame, what they did, how they went about it, this is what you want to do.
Okay. All right. No, that's good feedback. And Dave, what's the biggest company you've worked with?
Worked with or worked for?
I guess either or, man.
So Microsoft, in terms of valuation, Microsoft's the biggest company, but they were not my biggest account.
Yeah.
The biggest account I had was maybe Service Kings at Blue Fountain Media, or it was a multi-million-dollar a year account. This came after years where we said our minimum budget is $50,000 per client. The average client was being about $250,000. But we had a few accounts that were in the millions. Listen, if you have the team and determination to get there, you can. And one of the ways to do that is to be focused. It's hard to do this because small business is easy to close, but they're hard to please. They are more demanding than the larger ones.
Yeah.
So just know who your customer is and focus on your customer. I do Digital Silk right now. We're working with some big brands now, and I'll tell you that how much it's going to grow, I don't know. How successful will I be in getting bigger brands? I don't know, but that is my customer.
Mm-hmm.
My customer. So if someone walks in Digital Silk and says, "Hey, I have $3,000 a month," I'm not going to work with them. They're not for me. That customer is not someone that I'm set up to be able to get successful results for. So you have to know who your customer is and focus on that customer. And if you can't get that customer, either you close your doors or you could change your business.
Mm-hmm.
But don't compromise.
Do you want to grow those? Like, let's say you do take a smaller account, though. Is it your aim to grow that account into a larger account?
If I feel like we can do it, but you and I know that $3,000 a month marketing is bogus.
Right.
You're not going to. It's not a real budget. Okay, if you have $3,000 a month, I call that a hobby. I don't call that a business plan.
Yeah.
So there's not much you could do with it.
What's your minimum right now?
It'd be at least minimum 5,000 for the agency, minimum. And that
monthly.
5,000, monthly. And that minimum is something that, when I say minimum, I mean we would decide if that's something we could easily do or not. So simply because to do proper marketing, you need a designer, you need a copywriter, you need an expert, you need a manager. Well, what are you going to do with 40, 50 hours? What are you going to do? You know, there's not much you could do. And you want to get the client results. So, you know what? Demand great service from us, demand great work from us, but don't demand a magic show with the price. Just don't demand all that at a ridiculous price.
And you're setting those expectations up front, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk to clients now, look, we're talking to mostly businesses that's not an issue. So we target companies that are $100 million and more. So the clients that we're talking to, that shouldn't be an issue. It's when you're talking to small mom and pop shops, small businesses where you run into issues like that.
I agree. And typically when it's somebody's money where it's really personal, you're dealing with a $100 million company, you're not dealing with the owner and it's their money, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When it's a mom and pop shop or something, you can even be a 10, 15, $20 million company. I've seen it up as high as 200 million actually, where it was the individual owner's money. That's a very difficult, it's very tenuous at that point to have that conversation.
Yeah. But listen, one of the things people have to understand is, one of the things you got to do in the sales phase is set proper expectations. I remember once I had a sales guy in BFM. He sold a company on a $10,000 a month retainer for marketing, very broad. And that company thought they could get anything and everything they wanted at $10,000. Like they'd get SEO, they could get social, they could get pay-per-click, they could get content marketing. I'm like, whoa. Yeah, that's not a $10,000. What you want is a marketing army. You want a whole marketing team. They're not going to get that with 10,000. So to all the executives out there, you really have to train your sales team to set proper expectations in the sales process.
And by doing that, how do you go about setting those expectations? Just if we're just talking strictly to budget right now.
Well, some agencies, they have price sheets. We don't have that. Some agencies, they listen to what the client wants, and based on that, they come back with a proposal. That's what we do. So sales is not about pitching your prices. Sales is about listening and providing a solution that makes sense. Listening is key. Asking the right questions is the difference between one agency winning and another one losing. Because the one that asked the proper questions got better insight. So if you have a client that wants all those things and they just want to pay $10,000 a month and your sales guy is hungry to close them, like in my case he was, that's the wrong thing to do. You got to spend more time with the client to find out, okay, let's discuss what we're going to do each month. And I suggest we start with the marketing strategy.
How do you train your sales people to not pitch those bad deals? Because salespeople want to sell, they want to pad their stats. So how do you pull a salesperson off of an easy deal that's a bad deal?
I'll give you one shortcut. You could team up your salespeople with the account director. So the account director knows he or she's going to get that project and they could monitor the salesperson. Or you could have, you can't let salespeople do what they want because their job is to sell. You said it right on. And I don't blame them.
Right.
They need to sell. But you can't let them loose because they will just sell whatever. They need to have someone partnering with them. Whether that's going to be the account director, whether that's going to be a head of sales or a strategist, someone there to look the deal and understand it. Also, salespeople shouldn't really pitch. The pitch should be done by a team.
Yeah, I think that's spot
team-based
on.
selling.
That's exactly what we try to do here.
Unless you're an agency where you have price sheets. Unless you're an agency where you have flat rates and you could say pick product A, B, or C, then you have a salesperson.
But to me, if you are an agency that has a price sheet, then what you're offering them is that standard playbook that John and I talk about all the time. That's the same marketing playbook that everyone else is playing from.
Yes.
And it's the same thing. It's inbound marketing, it's SEO, and you're not going to get any kind of tremendous, results when all you're doing is offering them the same playbook that everyone else is. So,
yeah, I mean, you're dead right about that. That's what I'm saying. If for companies, agencies that want to move up, price sheets don't work. But some agencies like using it. It works for them, and they could have a salesperson. Other agencies where you're giving ideas, your sales guy is not the one giving the ideas.
And I guess how do you define a sales guy too, right? I think that's also like, what does that person look like? Like, do you have a quote unquote sales guy, or is that a person that has industry experience that you look for to help sell?
So the way I'm structuring it now is I'm going to hire people who are not salespeople, people who are experts, maybe in digital marketing or something, and they would take on the sales role. And but their job really is to ask the right questions, bring the team to the table, and follow up on the sales to close it.
Got it. So you're taking an expert that you're going to show them the skills necessary to sell.
Right.
And that's essentially your thesis to see how that plays out on the better side, rather than just somebody that you took that would sell yellow pages and they're literally, all right, hey, this is,
right.
Met the lines, we're going to flip it in, and they keep just throwing shit inside the house and nobody makes any money and nobody's happy.
Exactly. I think it's important for this. Look, that's one of the most toughest positions to hire for if you're an agency. If you're an agency that does custom work and every proposal is custom, you can't just take the yellow page sales guy and say, here. You will need someone that understands the services you're offering. And really, they could work with team members to do it. I mean, one thing you could do is take a junior person that's forward-facing and well-spoken, and they could bring the team to the table. But if you take a senior person that sold ads, that person is no more useful to you than a junior person is.
Could be even more detrimental.
Absolutely. And that's what happened to me. My first sales guy at BFM, he was a big hot shot at CBS sales. Didn't make one sale. You know how much money I lost in that guy? After 4 months, I'm like, not one sale. And I was looking to him because I thought he's going to bring this magic wand and we're going to have all these. No, I realized it doesn't work that way. So then I hired an intern. I trained the intern. And that intern, in 2 months' time, was able to close multiple projects because I set a process for this person. I helped that person. They had people helping them closing sales. And the clients saw a lot of teamwork.
And these processes you create, are you documenting these processes? Like, all right, look, you go into such and such file, or is it just a conversation you're having and you guys have an agreement?
So you have to have an intranet. That's your playbook. And everything is documented for every position in the company. Everything from the standards to how you do something to rules. So for example, when you're growing an agency, you must have an intranet that documents best practices and rules for every role. So for my designers, simple rules like never have more than 15 words in a line. Don't use a font less than 16. These are rules that we put for designers to follow, and then you have best practices and you have standards. And so we show a style guide sheet and say, this is a standard that we go by. You could do better than this, but not worse than this. For the strategists or account directors, how often do you contact your clients? What expectations do you set up? Best practices and rules. You need to document it. Now, once you document it, you don't forget about it. You have the team review it every week.
Wow.
And they will hate your guts for it. But they will review it every week. It's a living document. You're always updating it and you're always improving it.
So that spawns two questions. One, where did you decide that this was the best way to do it in your company? And two, what tool do you use for your intranet?
So we use a custom-made tool. Okay. I haven't found anything out there that does what we wanted to do, but you could use things out there if you want.
Yep.
And what I'm saying is nothing groundbreaking. I mean, any agency you go to, and I'm sorry, any large agency you go to is going to have a documentation as to how to do things.
No, that part I get. Every week, where did you get that repetition from?
Oh, I learned it from a hotel. I think it's
Okay.
the Ritz-Carlton I was staying at, and I think it was Ritz-Carlton. They said I was so impressed by their management of handling things and knowing things. And I said, how do you guys do it? And the guy said, every day we review our processes for our department. Every morning they review it, and we give feedback to improve it. So I thought that was, they just showed by example. I mean, I was so impressed by how they did things. It was somewhere in Mexico. And yeah, they said that they have all their etiquettes, they have all their behave, like how they should behave, what they should do. Everything's documented.
Wow. All right, and you do it every week. No ping pong, and we're reviewing processes, guys.
Well, I'll tell you what, you could tell someone don't do this and they'll forget it a minute later.
Sure. You
could tell someone how to do it better and they'll forget a minute later. And I'm not against ping pong. I'm just saying when I go to work, I take pride in my work.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go to work, if I want to relax, that's up to me. But I'm very serious about my work, you know, like, and I want my clients to know that. Again, why don't you tell someone to take some money out of their savings, go hire a lawyer and see how good you feel about seeing a ping pong table there.
Yeah.
You know, so I get it. It's cool for some people. For me, when I hire people, I go, look, I love what I do. I want to make sure you're the same mindset that I'm in.
I get that. No, and I think that's a good way of going about it. Which brings me to our next question. After looking at your LinkedIn, it appears your employees are decentralized and spread out all over the world, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you recruit and keep talent?
So I recruit by LinkedIn.
Okay.
Simple. You could use Indeed. Nothing special there. Keeping talent, like I mentioned, is people are really happy when they feel that the time they put into something is recognized. They feel proud of what they've done. And I think you have to create teams within your company, and the teams work collaboratively together and they will like working together. So I would say that the most important thing is to find people with certain mindsets, you know, that's similar to yours. So if you're a kind of person that, for example, I can't play ping pong at work if I have free time, because in my head, I'm like, I could be checking on a project. I could be making a sale. I could be doing something. And I know I'm not saying work nonstop and burn out. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying, but to me, when I'm at work, I'm in that mindset. Just constantly, and things get under my skin. Like if I lose a sale, it's my fault that I lost a sale. It's not the client's fault, because I decided that client is worth the time for me to go pitch. And if I lost it, there's something I did wrong, because I know we could have done a great job on it. So if you're serious and you're passionate about what you're doing, you should find people that will join your team with the same mindset. Look, if you're on a football team, all right, and you are one of those players that take it really seriously, takes it to heart, you know, like when you leave the field, you're still thinking about the game. You're thinking about what you could have done better. And when you're playing the game, you're in it 100%. You know, you're going to run as fast as you can. You're going to hit as hard as you can. You're not going to screw up. You're out there to win. Mm-hmm. You don't want someone on your team who's like la-di-dying, who's not serious like you. You want someone with the same mentality as you. And that's what this is. It's a team. And I want someone who's as serious as I am. Not someone who you
you know what I mean? So like you're on LinkedIn.
A lot of time interviewing.
Okay. So you interview, and are you testing them? Are you just
you give tests. So what I do is I give first round of questions, and I give a test to them. If they're a designer, I give a design test. Marketing, I give them a marketing strategy to do. If they don't want to do the test, okay, no, thank you.
Got it. On to the next one.
That's it. You give a test. Yeah.
Are there any personality-based quizzes or anything that you give them where you're like, all right?
I don't do. No, I mean, that comes across when you talk to them.
Yeah.
But I spend a ton of my time on hiring, about 4 hours a day.
Whoa.
Yeah. So if I'm working more than 8 hours a day, easy, but I will spend a ton of time in hiring, because the team, having the right team in place is critical.
Got it. And you're always hiring?
So far, yeah.
So far.
Yeah.
All right.
So and then we all make mistakes. You always hire someone who, like, you know what, that was the wrong fit.
Sure.
Both teams. That's going to happen.
And then hiring people all over the world, is that part of your scale strategy, or do you plan on having like real offices in specific locations?
Oh, we do. So we have an office right now in Miami.
Okay.
We're trying out Brickell. We have an office in New York City. I plan on opening offices in San Diego. But why do I have people all over the world? First of all, the U.S. is a very hard place to hire talent for in the digital space. You know that. If you want to get a top-notch marketing guy or top-notch developer or designer, they're in such high demand here. Sometimes they're asking more money than you can even charge your clients. So you gotta be able to think worldwide. But that being said, though, you need to know how to hire around the world. You will make some mistakes, and that's okay. Just expect that. But you got to find people. And by the way, people that we hire around the world, we're not talking about, they're not making $10 an hour. They're making a good amount of money. Like I was told that the tech people in Ukraine make 4 times the national average, 4 to 5 times the national average. So if you're in tech in Ukraine, you're doing a killing.
Right. Oh, okay. And then is that where you see the best talent pool?
No, I see it almost anywhere.
Yeah.
You have, we have guys that are US and they're in Costa Rica, or people that are from New York, but they live in Mexico. Or you have people that are in Mexico and they speak good. I do have a few criteria. One, they speak really good English. 2, they need to work EST hours, so New York time zone hours.
That's it. And then you just got to pass your test and
pass the test. Yeah, and you got to really trust them. So I don't track the people, like people in New York. I don't track what time they come to work, what time they leave. I make sure that they have the same mentality where they're going to kick ass for the client, and they appreciate that respect you give them. But if you have someone who can't be trusted, who's not professional, then they shouldn't be on your team.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Those are table stakes, right? Yeah, if you're not going to be a pro, then you can't play in this league. So as a kid, I was a huge comic book fan, and think the whole world is to some extent, these days with the success of Marvel, right? Including our previous guest on The Climb. He actually made money as a kid selling comic books. But you're a bit different because you were audacious enough to create your own comic, BioWars, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about this. I can see
the. So I went to NYU and I was pre-med. And I'm a big fan of comic books too. And while studying endocrinology, I thought of the idea of why not take these episodes that go on within our body where it's under constant threat from microbes, alien microbes, and you have these various cells in the body that could communicate with each other, really advanced communication, and have different roles. Why not make that into a comic book? So that got me into multimedia, and that's what got me into the world of the web. So that's how I ended up where I am now. It's just through medicine. I wanted a way to make education fun for kids, and that got me learning Photoshop, and next thing I know, I'm designing websites.
Wow. Huh. You started as like a hobby.
Yeah, it started as a hobby. And still after it today, so we just revised it now, and we'll see where it goes.
Is there like a first edition out there somewhere worth like 10 grand I need to find?
No, it's all online, free downloads.
Okay. No, that's cool. And then are you doing the artwork yourself? Because I looked at some. It's impressive.
Thanks. No, I did give some feedback and input, but I hired a team to do it.
Okay. All right. Now, after you're selling your agency, you started another venture, Design Rush, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess a couple of questions. Like, what was the overall goal of that venture? And do you have other ventures based on how busy you are?
So, first part, Design Rush was started as a agency listing.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to create a marketplace where companies would post projects for agencies to bid on.
Mm-hmm.
In all honesty, it didn't work out.
Mm.
Companies did not want to put their RFPs on a site that they didn't have control over. So tried it, didn't work out. I had some investors, I gave it back to the investors, and now I'm on Digital Silk. My only side venture right now is still the BioWars. So we're formatting it. I'm trying to pitch it to Netflix maybe for an animated cartoon series or something. But that's it. No, I mean, running a business is crazy enough. I'm always impressed by people like Richard Branson, where he was able to run so many things at once.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how the hell did he do that? Because running an agency is like more than a full-time job.
Yeah. I think it's client service business, right? He wasn't in that. He had a record label, and then he had like an airline. And you were able to steal a model that was very open, in the retail space, I think. But in client service business, it's very difficult. It takes your attention. I'm sure I wouldn't say you're a micromanager, but you're involved in a lot of the work that's happening, right?
Yeah, I mean, right now, especially a small scale that we are, under 40 people, I check on every project twice a week.
Yeah.
Just make sure it's going well. And I am very much hands-on. And if we go to 100 people, then I'll hire a second person that will be responsible to make sure that, like a client partner, to ensure that clients are getting great work. So I tell people, I go, look, if we're going to do this, let's do it right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's a good way of going about it. And when you were at 250, would you have a couple client partners?
Yeah.
And you just check in from time to time, or you pretty much unplugged from day-to-day activities?
No, I like to stay involved. I think I'm somewhat, I think people in my shoes would be you're kind of paranoid almost.
Mm-hmm.
So you're always checking in, making sure. See, if the CEO checks out, he sets or she sets the tone for the company. If you have a leader who's not there, who's not paying attention, who doesn't care, you think the management's going to care that much? No. But if you have someone who's a founder who's very much actively involved, keeps everybody on their toes. It's like your team captain. If your team captain is daydreaming, you don't care if you play well.
Right.
So I see myself in that position, and I got to set the example.
I think that's a good way about going about it.
I think a lot of companies look to hire people that played on sports teams, not because they want athletic people, but because they understand the team mentality.
Mm-hmm. Know your role, do your part.
Just they know that we're a team and we're only as good as the next person.
Mm-hmm. And everybody's replaceable on that team.
Everyone's replaceable, but you got to watch out for the stars.
Yeah.
When you lose a person that's highly valuable in your company, it could hurt.
Mm-hmm. How do you gauge that? That's an interesting aside there. So, like, you have a rock star, right? Somebody that either A, manages too much money, B, too much client work. Give me an example of how you would
decide to lose the company. There's two actions. One, the CEO needs to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I worked with you in a project, and you were very involved. You jump in, you took care of your team. These are all great. These are like priorities of a good leader. You have to, as a leader, if you have a star, yeah, sure. If you have a star player that's going to leave, I think the leader should be the first one to approach a client and ease a client and the leader should say, I'm going to personally take care of you and your account. Mm-hmm. Not to say you're going to do the work, but you're going to look it till you get, while you have it in a transition.
I guess what I'm looking at is, do you look at a star as a potential risk and I guess is what I'm getting at,
Oh, I see. You know, as you grow, uh, anyone, like you said, anyone's replaceable as you grow because when you're over 100, 200 people, you have multiple senior people in a client account.
Mm-hmm.
So if one person leaves, it doesn't hurt that much. But when you're smaller, it is a risk and you have to be prepared for it because it's going to happen.
Right.
Someone's going to leave for some reason. And the client's going to say, like it doesn't happen to them, like he's going to say,
Yeah.
why is this person leaving? But you need to be ready and prepared for that. When that day comes, you know what to do.
David, what's your like? How do you handle that? I know we've spoke about that some in the past a bit, but when stars, do you look at them as being a risk?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of have to, but I think in just working example, every time it's happened, you find out that people are replaceable and that you can find someone to train up and be the next star. I mean, you got to take it as a proactive, positive, optimistic approach that, you're just ready to train the next big star of your team, because otherwise, it will crush you. And if you take, you could spiral down into, a depression saying, oh, I lost my best person. What am I going to do? Well, I think as a CEO, that's what keeps me kind of hungry, is that, it's time to train up the next generation of rock stars at Oyova. So it's when that challenge happens, that's, as a CEO, either you're done with it or you're ready to keep going, because you're gonna get after it, start recruiting, put your recruiter hat on, and I actually it refreshes me because I get to resell why it is so good to be at Oyova, because I have to go recruit and tell these people why you want to come work with me, and it just reinvigorates me. So I entered it, a ton of times, and I love the challenge of when it happens. But I do have some like really embedded rock stars, and I've given them ghost shares, which are basically shares in my company that's saying, hey, you're going to benefit when if we ever sell, and I want you to be a part of this entire journey. And so far, that's worked really well to keep my key components.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the part where you say that it reminds you when you have to go back to hire, reminds you of why you're doing this, and it's well said.
Yeah.
I guess what I think of when I think rock stars is somebody that's that is pampered, right? That to me that's risky, because it's like, all right, we're changing things for this person. So
Don't bend backwards to appease anybody, because it will come back to bite you.
Right. And that's, I believe, all right, this person's being a dick. This isn't a culture fit. What are we going to do about this situation?
Yeah, I've let people go that produce money.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are others that could take their job. Okay,
Right.
they're not the end all. So, and even, when someone Apple says, I remember one time one of the top level designers in Apple left.
Johnny Ives.
Fell. Yeah, stock took it. And I'm like, you think this guy does everything? You don't think there's 10 designers who we don't know about that are just amazing sitting there? Like in Apple, it's the stupidest thing to sell this company. Like, as though this is the one person in the world that could do this.
Right.
So there isn't one person in the world, and there are many people that could do it. And I've had people that got cocky, and listen, you need to remind them that we're a team.
Right.
And you need to be humble. Look at the best basketball players. They usually treat their team members with respect, and they act as part of a team. They don't walk with a crown on their head separately from the team and poo-poo everybody.
Right.
So
okay.
I got a question based on something you said earlier about you had hired somebody that worked at CBS and you let go of them in 4 months. Do you feel like in the sales and even just the digital marketing world, you have to promote people up, and bringing someone from a larger organization down to a smaller almost never works out? Because I feel like when you bring someone from a larger organization into a smaller agency, their expectations are so set in that larger world that they just can't operate in the small world.
I think in most cases you're right. I think in most cases you have a very valid point. When you work at a big agency, I'm not a big agency, a big company. It's nothing like when you work in a small company. Small company, you got to produce, you got to be nimble, you have to understand the mindset. At a big company, a lot of times you won't work out if you're from a big company. I don't want to say they don't work hard. I don't want to say they don't have pressure on them, but it's not the same as a small company. And unless that person understands it, unless they come to you and they show you that I know it, this is like a startup phase, and
Right.
here's what I'm going to do, and they have that work ethic behind them. But I tell you, if you're working at one of these Fortune 500 companies in a position, you're comfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
You can hide.
Yeah, you could hide. Beautifully said. You could hide. You can't hide in a small agency. Can't do that. And a lot of times I was shocked when I had somebody from a big company that wanted to work with us. I'm like, why?
Right.
Found out. Nothing in 4 months.
I like the saying, we eat what we kill, because it lets people know right off the bat that there's no compensation without success. Like you're not going to be able to just be out of sight, out of mind. And then hopefully in 2 years, somebody notices you're not working and you're let go. Like it's, like you said, in 4 months, even that's a long time. I might even pull the trigger.
Yeah, that was my first experience in hiring someone. I was very wowed by their prestigious past in working with the brands they had worked with. And, with sales, they always say it's coming. So they're always dangling the carrot. But no, I learned a good lesson from that. That was early on in the years.
And I've seen salespeople get let go after like 3-4 months, and it turns out it was a 6-month sales cycle. Like everything they were nurturing and fostering, and they either let go or they quit, and then everything begins flowing in and closing after they're gone. And I think when it comes to a salesperson, it's like, all right, well, what are the metrics in place to make sure that you're actually trying to do something?
Right.
But enough on sales. I want to get to the next question, which is, according to Wikipedia, you're a digital trends expert. What digital trends are you seeing now that other agencies should pay attention to? And is there anything you feel agencies are leaving on the table with clients?
I like that, according to Wikipedia. What digital trends? Well, look, I think that quality of content is really important. Now, when I first started, people were putting up websites and they didn't care so much about what went on the page. Mm-hmm. Remember Flash was around?
Oh, yeah.
The words were so small, you couldn't read them, but that was a trend. They used to drive me nuts. Mm-hmm. One thing I tell you is it's expected for agencies to have in-house copywriters, because the messaging is so important, and also you need to understand the client's business. Look, you could have before got away with it if you just said, yeah, we build a website. Someone comes to you, build their website, and and the website did a poor job. Why? It wasn't clear what the client did. It didn't have a good conversion funnel. The messaging was not good. You really need to do two things. One, you really need to understand the client's business. And two, you need to have really good in-house copywriters. Because everything we hear about, all the new social media platforms and everything, it's all about copy. Mm-hmm. Copy is so important, and images too, but storytelling is very important. We all know that. So that's a trend that's not going to go away. Knowing how to properly communicate, effectively communicate with the audience, and understanding your client's business.
Sure. No, those are great points. All right. Yeah, you do have a Wikipedia page, though, so if you want to update that.
I'll leave that someone from Wikipedia could do when they like.
And to that point, let's say the copy is not going to change. Do you see anything changing in agency/client services in the next 5 years? Like, all right, everybody should be prepared for this.
When I was starting Blue Fountain Media, I had a client take me to lunch, and he said, Gabe, tell me, why you're going to become a dinosaur soon, because I could make a website on Wix or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he goes, well, why should I pick you? And I said, well, because I care about the work, and we put our heart into it. And he goes, and like the other agency doesn't. And that got me thinking for the next 5 years, why should someone pick you? But the other point that he made was, he said, we won't need agencies. This is going back 12 years ago because I could make a website on my own.
Right.
Well, he had a point. You can make a website. You could go to Squarespace today and make a website on your own. So why hire an agency? You don't hire an agency because they could do the work and you're just too busy. You're hiring an agency because you want them to position you in a way that your site's set up to succeed. Because anyone could go set up a Squarespace site and just throw some images and content on there. But not anyone knows how to position things so it has a high conversion and it's going to be effective. So in that sense, I think that not much has changed in that we're going to hire you, not because you know how to design code or you know how to run a social media campaign, but you understand what's going to appeal to my users and why they're going to buy from me.
Okay.
That goes back to copy.
Yeah, no, I've used, I guess, an analogy for that where I said even at one time you could buy a home from a catalog in Sears. They'd ship you all the parts and you could put it together. If you want to go through that pain in the ass process without an expert, I mean, that's completely up to you. And then now you can even buy a modular home, or do you want something that's completely custom? Because that's the business that we're in.
But it's not just because you could put it together. But maybe you know that when putting it together, you should add something to that part because in the wintertime, it will help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because as an expert, you know what's going to make it perform better. Your clients hire you because they believe that you could grow their business online. Mm-hmm. That's why they hire you. And they have you build their website not because, you know, there's a million agencies that could do it. But they have you build their site because you could build it so it's better optimized. You could build it so it's a better conversion funnel. You could build it so you could help them with saying these words will have a higher conversion than those words.
Mm-hmm.
It's for your expertise and your ideas that you bring.
It reminds me of the expression that if you think hiring a professional is expensive, wait until you hire an amateur.
Right.
Yeah, that's great.
Because a lot of people will balk at the price point, but then, it's so much better than just wasting your money with someone that doesn't know how to do anything. So having a home show up and you have to build it sounds like a terrible idea. And that goes right along with websites. I mean, there's plenty of Wix sites out there and there's plenty of, all those, but the second we encounter one, we already know we've got to step up on, winning that business because you can almost already know the frustrations they've got dealing with a Wix site.
Yeah.
Or if they're comfortable with those limitations, it's like, all right, you're that's all you need and you're there for a reason. I don't need to do anything here based on what you want and desire. That's going to cover it.
Look, again, it goes to knowing who your customer is. If your customer is someone that is very price conscious and they want to do something as cheap as possible, I don't want to bother with that person because they're more concerned about price than they are about the results.
100%.
Agreed. All right. So, Gabe, is there anything I didn't cover that the world should know, or you feel like, dude, this is something I wish you would have mentioned?
Well, if anybody out there wants to sell an agency or know how to prepare their agency to get purchased, and you could sell a company, but two things you keep in mind. One, you should show that your agency is growing. Like your agency needs to legitimately be growing, not just by head count, but by revenue and quality. And you should have your books very well organized and maintained. I got to tell you, when I prepared Blue Fountain Media for sale, any company that was serious about us, they probed us really diligently. They went through every record. They check on everything. And if you're not well organized and you can't present that quickly, they're like, no, that's not for me. I don't want to buy that company. You guys are a mess.
Were you approached first or were you on the market?
I was always getting approached.
Okay. And then did your employees know that you were selling it during the sales process, or is it they came in on a Monday and it's like, surprise, new owners?
No, I actually had a meeting with the leadership team, and I told them, I said, look, I got approached by a company that looks pretty legit. I said, I think this company can help us get to a next level. And I told him, I said, if we sell it, everybody keeps their job. And that's exactly what it was. Everybody kept their jobs, and they offered some incentives too. And that was nice for the employees. So I keep a transparency. I don't try to surprise people. We know how rumors spread, man.
Yeah. No, and I respect that. I know some other people that have done it the other way, and I'm just like, wow, it just seems so counterintuitive to having a transparent workplace where everybody feels like they can trust you. It's like you're sneaking around. I don't know. It's like a weird relationship to me.
Yeah, no, I was very open with my team about that. I mean, I was open to a point that if anybody wanted to see how much revenue we're making, wasn't that hard. I mean, there were reports going around, just look at it. And it's funny that when people have that access, they don't care.
Yeah.
So they don't have the access, like they try to figure it out. But if my account managers want to know how much we're doing in any given month in terms of revenue, they had access to that. I wanted them to know.
Right.
And we sold the company. I said, look, if the right company comes that I feel could open doors for us and help grow, then I would really entertain it and let you guys know. But I'll tell you this, if a company wants to buy an agency, they want to interview people in the agency as well. So it's kind of hard to hide it.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, so is there anything that we should that you want to promote? Is there anything you're peddling that you want to share?
No, just know that this is a hard business to run, and not the only one.
I love it. All right, brother. How can people get a hold of you?
You could email me, Gabriel@digitalsilk.com.
All right. Gabe, this was fantastic. I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Sean. It's great fun. And I got to tell you, man, something for your listeners, you got the coolest attitude of any CEO I've seen. I'm very serious, but you have a very nice attitude towards things.
Oh, you're very kind, man. Thank you so much.
Of course. David, it's a pleasure meeting you, man.
Nice meeting you. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. All right.
All right. Bye now.
Take care, guys.
All right, Dave, how do you think that went?
I think it went really well. I mean, I was really surprised of how perfectly in line his mindset was with mine. I mean, I was so happy to hear the things he was saying, because from the, no ping pong tables to, the sales guys and how he hires, like, I kept checking boxes going, yep, this is my guy right here.
Yeah, no, Gabe's awesome. I've had the opportunity to spend some time with him, and yeah, he's the real deal. So I'm confident he's going to build Digital Silk into something that's probably going to dwarf Blue Found Media or come really close before he potentially gets bought out again.
Well, I think you've got to have a pretty huge advantage when you're going back to the well one more time with something you already know about. Like, I've started other ventures after Oyova, not necessarily in the digital marketing space, but just the ability to set up my financial systems and my reporting for these different ventures. I did it in 2 days rather than 2 years of trying to figure out how to properly report on things. So, you have such an advantage after you've gone through your first business already.
I agree.
It again.
And I also think there's something that should be said about reflecting, because if you have 4 years to think about 20 or 16 years of something that you did, and you're mentally preparing yourself for the next big game, there's a lot to be like, oh, you know what? It's as if you're studying, for something, or you're in the midst of it for forever, and then you get out of it, and you're like, oh God, it feels so good to get out of it. But then you miss it. Once you start to miss it, you start preparing and planning.
Also, I think when you scrap everything and restart, then you get to restart without all of your kind of grown debt. He's touched on it a little bit when we were talking about older clients that were just too small, and how we finally had to come to that realization that it was time to let them go. Mm-hmm. Well, how many agencies around the country, around the world right now are holding on to old clients that they've worked with for so many years because it's a loyalty thing, when they know the right answer is to move on? So when you kind of get to just sell that and move on to another business, you don't bring any of that debt with you, that loyalty debt or that, and you can just go right after the big companies, because we all know that you have the clients that are, shouldn't be working with anymore, but they've been with us for 10 years and they were one of our first clients. So it's an easy break to just say, hey, we're selling, and you're going with them.
Right. So, unless those are the first people that you approach again when you're out of the gate.
Right.
Depending on where you're going to be at. And I agree with that. And I think that's in the client services business, that's a really difficult thing to get away from, because those are the loyalty, right? That strength is also then a weakness, depending at what phase in the life cycle you're at in your business.
And I love where he was coming at us with the anti-playbook. I mean, maybe that's going to be the theme of the climb here, is getting everybody out of that default playbook mentality, because just like you said, I mean, you got to come with fresh ideas and vision and something out of the box to get a Microsoft's attention. And I think everyone's looking for, how do we get a Microsoft, right? Because that's what everyone is out here doing.
Yeah, no, everybody wants a marquee brand. And I agree with you. I hate that shit of just like, all right, let's go ahead and productize this. We're going to put it in a box. We're going to use units instead of, hours. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like clients don't know algebra.
Right.
I remember the first time I tried that, right? I was like, okay, we're just going to go ahead and build a unit system. And I sat down with a client and he said, you don't think I can figure out how much this is? And I was like, yeah, I guess you could. He's like, yeah. He's like, don't do this, man. He's like, this is stupid.
That Bitcoin was started from an agency in California wanting to try to sell SEO management without actually telling them the price.
It was in California?
No, I don't know.
No.
It sounds like a Bitcoin type.
Oh, right. No, and I understand the reason behind it, right? So, but it's more for what I would consider mom and pop type shop businesses. If you're going to deal with somebody that is literally going to cut their nose off despite their face,
sure,
then I think it's like, okay, I don't want to deal with those people. I like a really transparent thing. It's like, yeah, that takes 2 hours. Well, why does it take 2 hours? If we begin to get into that conversation, you don't trust that our team is the expert.
Correct. Right.
And I don't want that to work with that person.
So I think we need to come up with our own DMG coin, and the value of it will be one blog post. And
this is our cryptocurrency.
Yeah, and as the blog posts get better and better, that will increase the value of the DMG coin. So
I got it. Yeah, there's entirely too many variables. Yeah, right. How many words is that blog post going to be? Is it 750? Is it 1?
No, that's how the market goes up and down.
Just fluctuates. Based on
DMG coin's only worth 50 words now. It's just plummeting. It's not even a tweet.
Yeah, but I would love to speak with other agencies that have gotten away from the productization that it seems like the market was going into, because productization equals commoditization.
Right.
Is you're being leveraged down.
Kill yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't care what kind of specialist you are or efficiencies you have, you're going to lose.
I understand the value. I understand the concept. I understand that it works really well in a vertical. I just feel like it handcuffs you in every other aspect if you're not dead set in that vertical. And I think everybody wants a product because the product is easy, right? That's when, Gabe was talking about it. When the CEO checks out, be worried. And when you kind of productize your entire company, that is kind of like the leadership checking out. Like, hey, we don't want to solve complex problems anymore. We just want to pull a lever. And punch out widgets. And that's the dream as a CEO, because you're tired of working, tired of solving hard, complex problems. But when you stop solving hard, complex problems, then be on the lookout.
And I think, though, to that point, I agree. I mean, you're literally just making, shit widgets, and the quality is so, speculative. But he's passionate about what he does. And he's like, I love what I do. That's why we don't have a ping pong table or,
I love that.
Yeah, I do too. And I think it's, if you are beginning to lose that passion, and I hate that because passion's become this buzzword.
I'm stealing that. Like, next pitch, I'm going to say, you want a company that's going to take your work serious.
Oh, no, I love that. Oh, yeah, dude, there's tons of things I'm going to steal. But I'm just saying the passion word, like, we're passionate. Everybody says we're passionate.
Right. And serious is the new passion.
Right. And I think it's just what you love doing, right? It's not passion, because passion like burns hot. It's like, yeah, why'd you have an affair? Well, it was the passion of the moment. Love had nothing to do with it, babe.
Right.
Right. So if we just stick with something that you love to do, what it's clear that he loves to do, and when that love goes away, I think that's at a good time. You need to figure out how to get out of your business and sell it, because all you're going to do is continue to harm it, and it's going to affect all the people that you work with, and then of course the people that you work for.
Right. Yeah, 100% agree. I even like that he touched on the difficulties of, employees constantly, needing that self or instant gratification, and then having to push the rate up constantly. I mean, it is as management, it is a challenging exercise of managing growth versus employee expectations versus, all those factors. That's the hardest part of what we do, is making sure that we don't grow. What is the saying? Like, grow yourself out of business?
Sure.
I mean, I think somebody said that once. Like, you can grow yourself right out of business because you end up breaking yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you grow too fast. I don't know if you grow yourself out of business is it, but yeah, I've seen people grow entirely too fast. There's a story real quick tidbit I know. It was a debt collection company that they literally grew so fast in the amount of clients that they took on, they weren't even able to collect on all the debt they were supposed to collect on, which then they got sued because that was part of their, they were in breach of their contracts, and they were literally out of business. And I'm talking within like a year and a half, they went from like 300,000 to like over $9 million.
Wow.
Which is, explosive. But at that point, they literally grew themselves out of business.
Wow.
And to a detrimental level. And I think the benefit that Gabe has, though, I guess to kind of like sum this up, is he can see the landscape of where it's gone, having about 3.5 years off. Also his experience with Design Rush. And he's a good guy to know. And I'm going to steal a lot of the tips that he gave us during this meeting.
Yeah. Excellent interview.
Absolutely. Anything else you'd like to add, Brochacho?
No, I think it was great. Strong episode. I will say, though, that you introduced us as episode 3, which episode 3 was Lee. This is episode 4. But hopefully nobody else notices.
Maybe I'll get that in post. Actually, there is no post, really. I'll just step in and go, episode 4.
Right. Excellent.
Another moment. All right, brother. Thank you so much, man. I'll talk to you real soon.
All right, man. Have a good one.
All right, you too.